you are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God.
You're the rock.
You're going to do it.
I'm going to build my church upon you.
Welcome to Suncrest United Methodist Church in Morgantown, West Virginia with Pastor Larry Buckland. Each week, Larry will ramble on about Sunday's sermon, impactful people and ministries, and no doubt, sports. This is The Rev Rambles On.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Buckland, pastor at Suncrest United Methodist Church, and this is another episode of The Rev Rambles On. And we welcome all of our viewers and listeners, and we're just so glad that you were tuning in for this ramble on here. I'm Larry Buckland, as I mentioned, and I've got my partner here with me today, Mark Markle.
Mark Markle, lay leader for the 9 o'clock service. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions not related to the service.
Okay.
You talk a lot about your enthusiasm for sports, and particularly WVU sports. What else do you look to for fun and recreation outside of sermon writing, counseling people, and going to WV sports events?
I just love to be where people are. That tells you, a few years back was a hard time during the COVID season for me. There were times I would just get in the car and drive. I think during that season, I got a lot more television watching than normal. I was watching anything that I could find that was competitive because I missed my sports.
Yeah,
I remember watching on ESPN a cornhole tournament, and they were wearing masks. That's how desperate I was to watch sports. Watching cornhole.
That's pretty desperate.
It was. Those desperate times. So you're asking me on how that what I do for fun. Basically, going where people are. I love going if there's live music somewhere. Going around town and seeing that. Walking, being outside in the outdoors. The wintertime is not my favorite part for that. I get out a little bit during the cold, but unless it's a freezing football WVU game, I'm probably not sitting out in the cold. But I will do it for the Mountaineers.
Last week you mentioned going to was it Disney on Ice?
Disney on Ice. That shows you. Well, that shows you what a parent will do.
Well, there were people there.
There were people there, and it was. And Disney does in my opinion, Disney does everything really well. So we had a great time. I'm glad that everybody there was family friendly because our little girl, Catherine Grace, she had a bubble toy that was there, and she was spraying bubbles on everybody.
I've taken my grandkids there. This has been a while, but they really enjoyed it too. It's fun.
Yeah, and my wife Christy is a Disney fanatic, so I don't know who was more excited, Catherine or Christy.
Oh, wow. Everybody had fun.
They had a great time, and I did too.
Well, I have a couple of questions about the sermon.
Yeah.
And I'm focusing again on Peter because that's our
Wandering Hearts, figuring out faith with Peter.
Figuring it out. And I'm focusing on his response to Christ's question of, who am I? And Peter gives two answers. One is, you are the Messiah, and you are Son of the living God. And I thought about that. What did it mean to Peter when he said, you are the Messiah, in his time, in his life, in that place?
I think for Peter, it meant a whole lot, like you're mentioning, a different picture than what we have. For Peter and for the people of Israel, the people of that culture and time and place, it was a feeling of, this is the Messiah, this is the King, this is the person that's going to change life for the Jewish community and potentially overthrowing Rome and the government. And it was a political statement to say that he is the Messiah. Not only a worshipful statement, but I believe it was a political statement.
Wait, let's look at the second half of that.
Sure.
You are the Son of the living God. Now, I tried to figure out what that was, Google looking at the Bible. What do you understand that to mean? What do you understand Peter meant by saying that?
I think it's still very similar to what I just said. It's a bit political, and it's a bit making a statement to saying who he is. They were putting their trust in him, and which they had done time and time again by following and giving their life to do that. However, even with that trust, there were times I believe they weren't ready to fully trust when it wasn't exactly what they thought Jesus should do or how he should handle it, or the things that Jesus was starting to tell them, as we'll talk about in the weeks to come here.
Yeah, the weeks to come are like you said, very telling in the sense of how the disciples viewed what was happening with Christ and what was happening in that time and place.
Yeah. And that question, Jesus, when he says, "Who do you say that I am?" It's so interesting, I think, that oftentimes we're looking for Jesus to give answers. And more often than not, even when he's asked, he comes back with another question.
He puts it back on us to say, how do we do this for him? How do we get this done? You, in the sermon, made a point of emphasizing Christ asked, "Who do you think I am?" And it started me thinking about, who am I? Who do I think I am? And what would happen if somebody asked me, "Who do you think you are?"
That's a loaded question. I'm a pastor, I'm a husband, I'm a father. There's all kinds of different adjectives that we have that define who we are.
The interesting thing to me is that Peter didn't say any of those. He didn't say, "You are a rabbi, you are a teacher, you are a leader." He said, "You are the Messiah." And to me, that is a step beyond the "who am I, who are you?" Peter had an insight, which I don't think he fully appreciated what he was saying.
I'm not sure he did either. Peter was, as we've seen and been reading and talking about during this series, that Peter's wandering heart, he was not afraid to put his mouth out there and say something. And he said that, and Jesus was not saying, "Oh, Peter, you don't need to say that." Jesus was like, "Peter, that has been revealed to you."
I almost have the feeling that Jesus is saying, "Peter, you got it, but you don't know you got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the keys. I'm going to make you the rock." And Peter says, "Okay, good. I'm going to be on the left hand or the right hand." He doesn't have a clue about what Jesus has in mind for him. And I think that's true for a lot of us today. Jesus has in mind for us things that are just beyond our imagination. And we have to open our minds up to those opportunities.
Right. I mean, if someone would have told me when I first decided to follow Jesus, and I was fortunate enough to grow up in a home that I was in church from the time I was a baby. and so I was very fortunate that I believe that I had parents that taught me about the love of Jesus and brought me up in the life of the church. But still, even when I made that choice to follow Jesus, if someone would have told me right away of what my life was going to look like, it might have actually scared me to think about that, to think about what I believe still to be a humbling, enormous responsibility to be called pastor and to care for people. And I don't know if I've told you, Mark, but every Sunday morning I can't eat.
Why? Why does that come about? Why do you think that happens?
Mark, I go to bed on Saturday night thinking about all the things that I'm trying to figure out, discern what to say. And I should be probably embarrassed. You ever talk in your sleep?
You've
been
my
told?
wife hasn't reported that.
Okay,
I do.
well, I have, and I've even caught myself like I'm talking my sermon when I'm waking up in the morning on Sunday morning. So it's just going through my mind so much, and the good or bad of that is sometimes there are different stories that come to me even overnight, Saturday night, that I may change something and add something, and so it's just kind of that rambling nature of a wandering heart, but yeah, I think. I'll be honest with you, Mark. I think when I stop having that anxiety a little bit, it may be time one day for me to say, okay, it might be time to retire, or maybe God has something else for me to do.
In your sermon, you talk about the keys, that Christ was giving Peter the keys and the responsibility of what that is. And in part, I think we in our baptism and our accepting of it, we all take some of that ring of keys and have a responsibility to use them to open doors.
Yeah, in our baptism, I think it's so important. There are words that we often say when we have an opportunity to remember it, and we say, remember your baptism and be thankful. And when we reflect on that, then it gives us time to think about who we are.
Well, the congregation also has an opportunity in that sacrament to respond and remember that, that point to themselves.
Remember that point for themselves, and also remember the responsibility we have, not just for when babies or children are being baptized. That makes it seem simplistic to say we're going to be a part, which is so wonderful. We're going to be a part of watching these children grow. We're going to be a part of that village that cares for and loves these children in this family. But even an adult baptism, we're reminded that we are to care for them, and that it's not only the pastor's responsibility to follow up with those when we haven't seen them. We were all here to experience that moment, and it's up to us to remind them that they're loved, they're cared for. And how do we do that? By doing exactly that. Just checking on them. Not we don't have to call and say, "Hey, do you remember your baptism? We haven't seen you in 3 weeks."
No. That's not going to go over well with a 13-year-old.
No.
But say, how you doing?
Yeah,
What's
how you
going
doing?
on?
How's it going? Just checking in. And I love it when someone thinks of me and sends me a text message and just says, "Hey, been thinking about you. How's it going?"
In the sermon, you talked about when the disciples fell asleep and the cock crowed and they woke up and became aware that they had fallen asleep. What else did they become aware of?
That's a great question. In that setting there, Jesus has said, let's go pray. And have you ever been so tired that it's hard to pray?
I've been so tired it's hard to keep my eyes up.
Yeah.
It's not just hard to pray. Yeah.
It's really, when you're awake like we are right now, Mark, it's almost hard for us to put into words what that feeling is like. We all know it. We've been there. I have embarrassingly been watching a movie at the movie theater, an action-packed movie, and cannot keep my eyes open. And you want to hear something even worse?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I was invited by some friends here at the church to come over and watch the Super Bowl.
Oh, no.
And I love sports.
Oh, no.
It was a long day, Mark. It's Sunday. It's the one day I work. Come on.
Okay. You're telling me you fell asleep in
It was
the
a
sofa?
long game, and it was a very comfortable sofa I was on. And I realized I cannot keep my eyes open for that end of that game. It was a long game. And then it went to overtime. Now, Thankfully, going to overtime and the exciting to get in overtime, it kind of gave me my second wind. And I wake up and I'm able to watch the game. And the next time I see those folks, I tell them, "I'm really sorry." I said, "I'm sure you're not going to want to invite me again." The life of the party, falling asleep during a great Super Bowl, and that was me. So imagine that the disciples have just heard from Jesus that this is the blood of the new covenant, and yet they were so tired, and who knows what the emotional stress was going on. They had to know the political tensions had gotten high.
Well, for a future thought, I'm not looking for an answer, but I thought about the moment the cock crows and they wake up, and then that it was an awakening, a realization they'd fallen asleep and maybe fallen short. And I contrasted it to them finding the tomb empty. It's another awakening, but in a totally different universe almost. I mean, it's something to anticipate as we move into Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. What is our finding the tomb empty moment?
Well, what reminds me in this message here, Mark, still is that Jesus still telling Peter, "You're the rock.
You're going to do it.
I'm going to build my church upon you." And, I reminded us that the church is not a building. The word that's used there in the New Testament, which church is not used very often in the Gospels, but the word is ecclesia, and it's about an assembly going out. It's not about, as much as we love Sunday morning, and I always call it practice.
Or a recharge.
Yeah, practice, recharge. It's a community gathering, and hopeful that there's something in that time, whether it be the community gathering, the music, the message, seeing someone you haven't seen in a while, whatever it is that it moves you outside of these walls.
Well, it's an opportunity also to say, oh, what can we do? Meet somebody and say, what can we? I mean, that happened to me this Sunday. Somebody came up to me and said, I need to sit down and talk with you. When can we have coffee to talk about an outreach program?
That's fantastic.
I mean, that happens as well.
Yeah.
Surprised me.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about that gathering, about us communing together, and not just here.
And not just here.
And
Yes.
not just here. Yeah. And going out into this community and beyond and making an impact, just like the impact that God has already made on our lives, that hopeful that experience makes us want others to see
know
the
it.
empty tomb.
Yep.
To see the empty tomb and to know that you too, you and I, Mark, have the keys to the kingdom. Let me tell you one story that was shared with me between the services.
Okay.
Pastor Tim Halloran, who had been pastor here at one time at Suncrest United Methodist Church for a good while, he tells me a story that when he had met someone that was a pastor in a smaller church, around 65 people. And when he moved into the community, have you ever gone and made a key? You've gone to the
Yes.
hardware store and made a key
Yes.
or wherever, and
Yes.
that's what the pastor does. He's got a copy of a key to the church. And he goes in and he's talking to the guy, finds out, the guy's a member of the church and been there for some time. And he says, well, how many keys can I make you? He says, 65. Yeah, he gave big guys like that, I'm sure, just like you did to me, Mark. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm giving everybody a key to the church.
Right.
Now, don't tell the trustees that I have any ideas, because I don't plan on giving everybody the code or the key. But I do hope that people here know that we're open more often than we're not. And we want it to be a place where people can come during the week too, not just on Sunday. The sanctuary probably doesn't get used like it should Monday through Saturday. And the sanctuary, or you can come here and volunteer, work, do many things. We can find you something to do. But maybe, just maybe, you want to come in and pray. And that's what this guy had an idea for. He's like, we got 65 people. I'm giving them all key. And probably in that church, it was not like a church here that is open more often than not. It was probably a community church that they gave keys to. And so what he did first was he gave the guy at the hardware store the first key and said, here you go. Here's your key to the church.
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. So what I'm saying then for us, as we've rambled a little while today, is that I think it's our opportunity to say everybody can have a key to the kingdom if we'll receive it.
Both a challenge and a grace and a responsibility, I think, all at one.
Jesus is wanting to say to us that I want to build the church on you. There's that responsibility I was telling you about, why I get nervous every week. And so if I've got that key and I'm willing to share it, then hopefully others will be able to experience things in life opened up to them, that maybe it moves that stone from the tomb in people's lives.
It's a hope.
Let's hope.
It's a prayer.
It's a prayer. And we've got a lot of great things going on here at the church right now.
We do.
Yeah. And it won't be long until Holy Week. So every Sunday, of course, we have worship here at 9 a.m., our traditional, and 11 a.m. contemporary. We're having Wednesday all the way until Holy Week, Lenten lunch. And so it's devotion with lunch. Those are Wednesdays at noon. But on Monday, Thursday, we're trying something different, Mark. It's part of something I experienced in my last appointment. Is we're going to have, at 6:30 on Monday, Thursday, we're going to have Holy Communion. Then we're just going to have dinner together.
Oh.
We're going to have dinner together, and we're going to have that downstairs in our Cowan Hall. That's here at Suncrest.
Yeah, I maybe I have read that, but I didn't appreciate.
Well, it's coming out this week, and we are going to ask people to RSVP, because we're going to have lamb. We're going to have an option of lamb or Mediterranean chicken or falafel, and then of course the sides to go along with those kind of things. So we're going to have a great time. And so if people are in the area and you'd like to come, we'd love to know that. So let us know. It would be a great informal time of just celebrating communion and dinner together.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Can you believe we got another episode of the Rev Rambles On almost behind us?
Almost. We're going to
Almost.
wrap it up.
We're going to
You-
wrap it up.
You want to say goodbye?
I'm ready to say goodbye. And I just want to say, if anybody is enjoying the podcast, we'd love to hear from you and let us know. You can find our contact information at suncrestumc.org online or our Facebook page. And you can listen to this if you'd rather listen to us on the many different outlets for podcasts, but you can also watch on YouTube at our Suncrest UMC YouTube channel. So we're grateful for that. If you'd like to be a part of helping us out, let us know, and we'd love to give you a shout out for helping us out. So thanks so much. And Mark, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to next week.
I look forward to next week, and I invite you to come down on Sunday, either at 9 or 11, and be part of the group.
Yep. Come and connect. Let's go. And have a great week, everybody.